Well, you know I love Cubase, right? And it would really take a lot to make me switch from Cubase. To me, it's just too much hassle to get used to all the ins and outs of a new DAW when you've just spent years getting to know and learn about, well, Cubase in my example. So to me, it seems that the benefits of switching just do not outweigh the disadvantages. And yes, I do recognize that sometimes there are circumstances in which you don't have a choice. For example, if the developer of your DAW stops development, or if they force a subscription model on you, which is just way too expensive. Pro Tools, anyone? In any case, nothing like that seems to be happening with Cubase or Steinberg at the moment, so I'm not switching away. But I do have my pet peeves about the product. For example, some long-standing issues, which I think are bugs and just do not get solved. So let's go. So the first bug has to do with automatic tempo sync and correction in Cubase. Let's have a look. So this is my project in Cubase 12 and it just contains one stereo track which I want to put on the grid, because the tempo in this track is not steady. So what you can do in Cubase is you can select the track, you can go to Project, Tempo Detection, and you now get the Tempo Detection panel. I can push Analyze, and Cubase has now added a signature track and a tempo track with all tempo changes that it detected, analyzing the audio and looking for downbeats. Now if we zoom in a little bit, you can see from the count in the beginning here that it tried to detect the tempo change every 8 note. I think that's a bit too much. So let's divide that by 2. And now it tried to detect the tempo change every beat basically. Now if you move a bit further down, you can see over here there's a pretty big tempo leap. Now imagine that this downbeat actually belongs on this little bump in the wave. Let me enlarge that a little bit. So what I should be able to do is drag this downbeat to this position to manually correct the tempo detection for this specific spot. So if I do that, you can see it moves, and if I release the mouse button, it just jumps back to its original location, and it does something really weird over here with measure 21 and 22. It detects a very short bar here. Now this is a bug, because it works perfectly as it's supposed to do when you have a 44 kHz project. Then I can drag the downbeat to just the right location and it stays there. And it also works perfectly for 48 kHz projects, which this one is, in Cubase 8.5 or earlier. So there's definitely something wrong here for the 48 kHz project in Cubase 12 in this case. And it has been like that since Cubase 9 for me, and not just for me, but for a lot of other people as well. Because this is the forum post on the Steinberg forum about it. Cubase 9.5 tempo detection only works properly at 44.1K. Originally from Brandon McKell, and he perfectly describes how to reproduce the problem. There's lots of users confirming the problem. And at some point, Martin Giersak from Steinberg, who's always very helpful in the forum by the way, he supplies a workaround, which is not really a workaround because it basically messes up your whole tempo map. And that means you might as well just do the tempo detection manually. And this is a very annoying bug to me because I basically always work in 48 kHz. And if I want to do automatic tempo detection, there's bound to be some areas that I need to correct. And you just can't do it in 48 kHz. So my personal workaround is either that I go back to Cubase 8.5, because in that version it still works correctly in the 48 kHz sample rate as well. Or I just import this track into a 44 kHz project, then do the tempo correction, export it, and then import it back into my 48 kHz project. Which is just too much, right? And if by now you're wondering what that's all about, automatic tempo detection and correction, because I just only showed you the bug, I have a separate video on that which I'll link in the description. Let's move on to the next thing that annoys me. And that next thing is about using Autotune in Cubase. Let's have a look. So in this project I have a piano track with a little lick, and I play the last note of that lick wrong on purpose. Let's have a listen. So that last note is obviously wrong. It needs to be da 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 back to C. So let's try to correct that with Autotune. Select the event, Audio, Plugins, going to our Pitch Shift plugins, Autotune Pro. And currently it does not have anything in there, so let's make it track the pitch. So this is a C sharp and it needs to be a C. So let's correct that with Autotune. I just draw a line and you see that Autotune has corrected the pitch to the green line. Let's have a listen. So it does something weird at the beginning of that note, which I could probably correct by changing tracking and the retune speed and all those details. But in the end, it does correct it to the C note that I wanted. But when I now close direct offline processing and I play the event which has been processed, according to that little indication over here, you can see that the direct offline processing suddenly seems to be gone again. So if I now open direct offline processing, you can see the Autotune Pro processing is still on the audio clip here, but the correction has disappeared. And this is also a bug. Let's have a look at the forum post about this. Somebody already reported it for Cubase 9.5 with Autotune 8 not processing audio clips. And Antares have replied to this issue, confirming the issue, and as a workaround they say just add Autotune as an insert to an audio track and process your audio that way. Now further down I also replied to this post, and then they reported that this issue requires a fix both on our part and on Steinberg's. I'm happy to report that we expect it to be addressed by a combination of our next Autotune Pro update and Cubase 10.5, both of which are currently in beta. However, I tested it myself for those versions and the bug did not seem solved, and somebody else also tested it in 2022 and also seems to be having this issue with Autotune Pro 9 and Cubase 11. Now for this test that I just did, I'm also using the latest versions, Cubase 12.0.40 and Autotune Pro 9.1.1.6. And this issue still doesn't seem to be resolved fully, although there is another workaround by now. For example, if I just start from scratch, no offline processing yet. And this time again, I go to Plugin, Pitch Shift, Autotune Pro, but now I deselect Auto Apply. So whatever processes you add over here or whatever plugin processing you add is not automatically applied. Let's track again. And let's correct it again. And now I can push Apply, and you saw some processing here. And if I now go back to the project, play it. The processing actually stays on my event. So I think something has definitely been fixed over here, but just not fully and completely. You may also think like, but hang on, why are you talking about this as a Cubase bug? And that's mostly because somehow it seems to be somewhere in between. Direct offline processing and Autotune still don't fully work together very well. Yeah, workaround, okay, what I just showed you, but I think that only works recently. So my workaround now is actually that I scrapped using Autotune altogether and just use Very Audio in Cubase, which is very well integrated with Cubase. It may not be the industry leader, but it does work much better than this weird way of working with Autotune. And as for the Antares Autotune trial, that was a bit of an annoyance as well, because currently you can only get a trial as part of their subscription model. So you actually have to register for their subscription licensing, which is more than 30 euros per month, including VAT over here. And then you have to make sure to not forget to cancel this, because otherwise after 14 days they will just charge you. Another little annoyance in the making of this video. Now if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell icon so you know when I post another video. And if you want to support the channel even more, you can use the affiliate links to these stores which are in the description. Back to the video. Now the third thing that sometimes annoys me when I'm working in Cubase doesn't really have anything to do with Cubase at all. Let's have a look. And what I mean is what you need to do to reset the value of a knob in a plugin to the default. For example, over here, this is the Blackboard Studio Kit BBN105 plugin. It's an equalizer, and to reset it to default, I can double click, I can control click, and only when I alt click does it go to the default value, which is 0. If I now open Plugin Alliance's AMIC console, again, equalizer, I can alt click, nothing. I can double click, nothing. I need control click to reset to the default value. Now my recent reverb discovery, let's set density to something non-standard. I can control click, I can alt click, and I can double click. So apparently alt click and double click resets to the default value for this one. Wouldn't it be nice to have a standard for this? If it were up to me, I think I would go for control click is reset to default and double click is enter a value manually with the keyboard. So now that I've shown you my pet peeves and bugs, please let me know in the comments what bugs you about Cubase. Now the first bug that I showed you was about automatic tempo detection and correction in Cubase, and I already said that I made a separate video on that, and it's actually one of the more popular ones on this channel. So check it out over here, enjoy, and see you soon.